What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get
Running
to
gear.
it.
Braking system. Most Trooper IIS have 4 service brakes and 2 parking brakes. Some do not have any of the brakes. This is all the more surprising because the rear brakes here are the same as on Chinese Hover. They were copied from another Isuzu model, and the front brakes are made surprisingly strong and massive, and they even have all the spare parts on sale. Exactly the same calipers are put on many small Chinese trucks until now. But the lack of original Isuzu catalogs from most sellers, the rarity of the machine, and the predominantly off-road riding make it difficult to use. Surprisingly, but many people do not use the fact that there are catalogs of twin brother Opel Monterey available, which differs only by the type of automatic transmission and decorative elements. Accordingly, other spare parts are interchangeable. On the front axle there are brakes with a relatively small, but very massive, 26mm thick 280mm disc. The caliper is the simplest, floating single piston, but it's a condensed one, with a strong bracket, good seals of the piston, and fingers with separate plates, fixing the position of the pads in 2 directions and without any tricky thin springs. Even the ABS comb is separate and bolted to the hub. By the way, it is expensive, even non-original. Everything is cargo-like and for centuries. But still, brakes sometimes bring to a non-working condition. And sometimes the backlash of the hub bearing is such that even serviceable brakes do not work properly. Pads cost pennies and are offered in a large assortment. At the back is exactly the same story, except that in case of malfunction often buy new calipers from Isuzu Axiom or Great Wall Hover, because they are widely available and inexpensive. But inside lurks a drum mechanism of handbrake. It is quite survivable, but the bridge often leaks oil on the stocking with clogged breather pipes, and the drum stops working due to oil ingress. And it is dangerous to use it as an emergency one. There is a strong smoke when braking. And if there is no oil, it rusts and sours over time. In general, much more attention should be paid to 2 points. The car before restyling comes without ABS, and it is extremely unpleasant for 2 reasons at once. Firstly, it is simply not very safe to drive without ABS, and the brake force regulator on the rear axle is prone to leaks. And secondly, unlike the brake master cylinder and calipers, it is inconveniently located, and there are always no spare parts for it. And brake pipes rot very badly. If they have not been replaced with copper ones, you will have to do it. Check that there were no bent and otherwise plugged lines. But ABS here is reliable enough and does not cause troubles. Suspension of Trooper is surprisingly successful and perfectly suits for construction of powerful expeditionary machines. Many owners tolerate all other inconveniences because of it. In front, the design is independent, double wishbone on torsions with powerful levers and successful location of all components. In any case, there are almost no complaints. The levers are massive, the shock absorber support is quite compact, all elements are replaceable, the torsion bar is strong and well located, well adjustable, and breaks very rarely. The axle is made as a single unit with the gearbox housing, drive shafts and stockings. The hubs are also powerful and very strong. There are a lot of bearings, but all of them are replaceable. The disadvantages here refer rather to the transmission department. The main breakdowns occur with the hubs, namely with their thin needle bearings and splines. But it is not a great misfortune, because the prices for all elements are very forgiving. The exception is the torsion, which costs more than 20,000 rubles, but it is almost eternal and is perfectly tightened. There is, however, one more unpleasant nuance. There are a lot of washers, bushings, brackets and other little things in the front suspension. Usually not everything survives to this day, and not everything can now be bought new for replacement. And without them and geometry may not match, then the comfort of movement will not be the same, and controllability. In addition, not every service really with a sole will rebuild the suspension, not leaving extra parts. In the rear suspension, everything is fine and simple, an uncut axle, suspended on springs. The axle beam is powerful, and many cars have a self-locking differential from the factory. The two lower arms are very survivable and at the same time are covered by the bracket and frame from damage. The upper lever, aka reaction rod, is located high in the center and serves for a long time. The pan air rod is long and well positioned. The springs are strong, close to the center of the body and provide good axle angles. The transverse stability stabilizer is rather soft and it is often removed to increase passability. Well, or it breaks itself due to corrosion in the places of installation in the bushings or under off-road loads. Shock absorbers are located almost vertically and therefore work effectively, providing excellent suspension performance both on the highway and off-road. To summarize the chassis, virtually all elements of the front and rear suspension are either available new or they can be made by the nearest locksmith shop. Breakage of running gear on Isuzu even in the middle of the Mongolian steppe is not a problem, a few spare parts from UAZ plus the work of a mobile forge and the car will be on the move. If to speak seriously, the interchangeability, of course, is minimal, except that Ulyanovsk driveshafts and cross members are adjusted. But in case of extreme necessity it is not so difficult to remake levers and elements of steering trapezium, and far from civilization it is a way out. Steering recirculating ball steering with integrated power steering is a classic for heavy off-roaders. Minimal chances of depressurization, a lot of trapezium articulations and not the most successful location of the rods in front of the axle. In this case, the mechanism is surprisingly survivable and does not break down if the power booster is at least filled with something and hoses do not flow. It is only necessary to change all the rods and swing arm in time, and at the same time the steering damper, the comfort of steering depends on it. And if the rubber is installed not original, but mud rubber, its importance only increases. Transmission. General problems despite the pipes of axle breathers and good work on sealing of all aggregates, often the root cause of many troubles. Is water ingress into the aggregates. And off-road loads here are very high, you can meet and rolled shafts and bent axles. If possible, check the oil. Well, and that minimum of wires and vacuum lines that there is in transmission, do not leave without attention, they can provide you with troubles more than mechanical part. Manual transmissions. The Trooper was equipped with Aisin MUA5, MUA5C mechanics, a reliable, sturdy 5-speed. It was used both before and after restyling, both with part-time drive and with TOD-driven transfer case. The main weak point of the box is the shank oil seals and gear selection mechanism, but they are rarely annoying. But the clutch slave cylinder even on cars produced after 2002 fails quite often. But the reason is almost certainly in dirt, and the clutch on off-road vehicles is changed often, which increases the chances of service errors. Automatic transmissions. The main automatic transmission on the Trooper is a 4-speed Aisin 30-43LE, better known to Toyota owners as A343F or AW30-70LE. Almost all cars of Japanese assembly were equipped with it. But Americans, which were sold as Isuzu, Opel, Chevrolet and Holden, were equipped with GM's 4L30E. The Aisin box is impeccably strong and is considered to be conditionally eternal. Moreover, this automatic transmission has survived 2 serious revisions, connected with the appearance of linear solenoid of pressure regulation in 1998, and in 1995 it was just thoroughly redesigned Hydra block. From the point of view of mechanics, 30-43LE is ideal, but overheating and dirty oil can kill the oil pump and bushings, frictions. Forward and brakes of the second gear, the brake belt also suffers. Solenoids sometimes die, and linear solenoid has a limited life, more than 350,000 it cannot pass, even if the oil was changed once in 60,000. Outside the box the weak point is the selector. It is conditionally sealed, but with time it wears out. As a result, if it gets into water, it can rot from inside, and the box will work in emergency mode. Against the background of Aisin, the box from GM is not so survivable. The oil pump is much more sensitive to dirty oil, and the brake belt fails easily enough if the box is overloaded. But in general resource is approximately the same, until the unit is not killed by overloading or overheating, oil leakage and water ingress. But the selector is a little more reliable. Unlike the Japanese box, it is better to change oil in GM more often and in any case not to bring it to darkening. Any overheating easily leads to large-scale repairs. The pedal oil pump and the abundance of plastic elements in the construction of the mechanical part will not survive such adventures. In repair, the box is a little more complicated than the Japanese one. Usually, masters do not like them for the fact that the pistons here are large and complex shape, so without special mandrels and cooling, the mechanical part cannot be assembled. When choosing a machine, the type of box does not matter much, it will in any case work until the first serious mistake of the owner. Repair can cost inexpensive, and second-hand auctions for replacement are quite a lot. True, recently, automatic transmissions of this type in perfect condition have become more valuable and are found less often. Four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive here is classic, with a transfer case and conventional driveshafts to the front and rear axles. Several transfer cases were offered. The main one is called SOTF, it is an abbreviation from shift on the fly, which means the ability to activate all-wheel drive on the move, without leaving the cabin to activate the front axle hubs. Often there are cars with a conventional gearbox without such accessories, there is no pneumatic control, and the front axle on such cars is different. And after restyling, there were boxes with TOD, a transfer case with a friction clutch of front axle connection from BorgWarner. Harsh Isuzu owners believe that pure mechanics is the best, and in some respects they are right. The SOTF system has rotten connectors of axle and transfer case inclusion sensors, or vacuum is lost in the system, or the pair breaks. And the wear of the mechanical part is often a little higher. All this can be repaired, and the system has no special disadvantages in terms of mechanics. The box with TOD has a limited resource of frictions and is not very favorite by owners for the fact that it is necessary to change oil, and torque on the front axle is limited. There are few cars with this system, but it seems to be a good solution in general. The driveshafts are quite reliable, collapsible. Cross members are available for sale, and the spline part, provided there is grease, lasts 500,000 plus. Shafts are massive, as on tractors it is difficult to break them. General problems off-roading is not only harmful to the body, pay attention to whether there is a lot of dirt in the engine compartment, and whether there are traces of water on the motor. In general, engines are phenomenally strong and enduring, but the use of a motor-driven fan imposes its own limitations. Simple electrics are open to all winds, and gas cylinder equipment on gasoline motors is put very often. In general, you need to look at how the particular car was operated. The most powerful of the motors is the 6V1 unit with a volume of 3.5 liters and an output of 218 horsepower. The 3.2-liter engines are available in SOHC and DOHC variants. The first is designated 6VD1 and produces 177 horsepower, the second, 6VD2, and develops 193 horsepower. All motors are a benchmark of reliability, and even the 3.5-liter unit, which was upgraded with a lightweight piston group, individual ignition coils and intake geometry control system, rarely fails. Fundamentally, the design of all motors is the same, they have aluminum blockhead and cylinder block with cast iron liners. The timing is belt-driven, injection is distributed, and there are no phase regulators, adjustable thermostats and other technical frills. The timing rollers have replaceable bearings and a powerful tensioner, and the camshaft gears are cut helical with a spring insert. That guarantees no backlash and noise. The intake manifold is cast aluminum, and even in the 3.5 engine the system of geometry change is actuated by steel rods with a steel pneumatic cylinder. The flaps inside are also metal. Motors are almost eternal, but all of them have a tendency to oiling. Over time, the rings lay down, and the system of ventilation of crankcase gases is primitive enough and drives a lot of oil to the inlet. Any overheating and the motor increases its appetite many times over. Rescixovka may help, but it may not. At the same time, it is necessary to monitor the condition of hydrocompensators and rocker shaft axles. Among the unpleasant moments, we can mention the poor availability of spare parts, even consumables. Gaskets and timing components, except for the belt and bearings, may be of limited availability, delivery times will be inhumane, and prices will be high. In addition, you need to be prepared and operational features of the machine, in particular, the fuel appetite. With a relatively small capacity, gasoline motors are very fond of gasoline and easily consume 20 liters per 100. Diesel engines. 2 diesels were offered, 4JX1, 3.0 liters, and 4JG2, 3.1 liters. The motor 3.1 is a pre-chamber, bottom shaft, and 3.0 16 valve with direct injection and, of course, top shaft. But the main difference is in the injection equipment. For the old ones, the simplest mechanical-driven fuel injectors are used. But the 3.0 is equipped with an electronic fuel injector in a rare and complex even by Japanese standards HEUI design, where a pair of oil pumps, electronically controlled injectors and complex timing are linked together. The design turned out to be crude, so the owners are haunted by specific ambushes with inflating not only the fuel system, but also the oil system. The car may not start after oil change because of air getting into the system. The oil intake pipes were notable on this engine. Due to weak brackets, they were not tightly adjoined to the block holes and sucked air through the seals. Let's add here a specific 7-plunger fuel injector, fuel getting into the oil and antifreeze when the nozzle cups were worn out, and about 1 million more non-standard failures. From the minuses on the mechanical part, only scoring of liners at fans to spin the motor without oil pressure, but it happens rarely. But the average service for such an engine is taken reluctantly, if it is taken at all. And it does not know its weak points. So the owners massively welded the engine to an older, smoky and weak, but problem-free. Older diesels are reliable, but they have their share of failures. Often there are cracks in the cylinder head at the forkamers and a lot of other nuances of age, including threads, cracks and broken seats. All the same, the mileage usually exceeds 500,000 and even go under 1 million. It is not necessary to be afraid of them, they are less specific in service than 3-liter unit. But spare parts are not available everywhere, and probably they will have to be ordered and wait for a long time. To take or not to take? Even for that small layer of motorists who are consciously looking for an old and maximally simple off-roader, Isuzu Trooper II is a very unusual option with a lot of advantages and almost the same massive disadvantages. The main disadvantages are low prevalence in Russia and corrosion. And among the advantages, the simplicity and the design solidity in combination with very decent characteristics for the passer by of the end of the last century. On the basis of Trooper II, serious expedition vehicles were made, and fans will continue to use them after the contemporaries from China and Korea, which were produced yesterday, rot into dust. Simply because Trooper II lives like UAZIC. Any spare parts are suitable, even made on the knee. Almost everything can be changed, and what cannot, you will have to weld or cut off. A city dweller will hardly need such a Isuzu, but the fashion for traveling to the wilderness is not dying out. So, if you are ready to be able to repair the car with your own hands, it is rather strange, but not a bad option. In conclusion, the Isuzu Trooper II stands out as a remarkable vehicle, especially for those seeking a robust 4-wheel drive experience. With its impressive mileage and reliable automatic transmission, it caters to both adventure enthusiasts and everyday drivers alike. The diesel engine not only enhances fuel efficiency but also offers the power needed for various terrains. Whether you're navigating city streets or exploring off-road trails, the Trooper II proves to be a worthy companion. As we've seen, this vehicle combines practicality with performance, making it a true gem in the world of SUVs. Thank you for watching, and we hope this deep dive into the Isuzu Trooper II has provided valuable insights for your next automotive decision.